Welcome to Dualshock'd, the Brotherhood of Geeks PlayStation podcast. Go ahead, like, comment, subscribe. We always appreciate it. I'm one of your hosts, Brett J. Rasmussen. Over here, I got my other co-host,
Guru Blaz.
Yeah! What is up, man?
Not too much.
What's up, dude?
I actually did play Blaze Blue for the first time in a while. The old I was Continuum Shift Extend because an old buddy of mine came over to visit, and we used to play it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we got some real hype matches going.
Nice.
Then that was on the 360.
Gotta dust off that old system.
Oh, I use it, just not as often.
I get you. I don't remember the last time I used my PS3, but I definitely want to give it some love.
Yeah. Outside of that, still trying to beat that one level in One Finger Death Punch 2. And
man, I've never played that game, so I have.
It's good. It's for how cheap it is. It's like, it's super simple, easy, and fun.
Yeah.
Like easy to learn, hard to master type of thing. But outside of that, I've been watching. I started the second season of One Punch Man.
Nice.
Because I just been.
I like that.
I haven't been watching anything lately, and then I've also been watching some more Hunter x Hunter.
I've never heard of that one. I don't know.
Oh, it's spelled Hunter x Hunter. Okay.
Okay.
But it's supposed to be said Hunter x Hunter according to the creator.
Okay, so it's just Hunter x Hunter.
Right.
That X is silent.
Yeah. But yeah.
Not Hunter Cross Hunter.
Nope. But outside of that, that's pretty much that's what I've been doing.
Funsies, yeah. Let's see. For me, I have just been deep diving into Days Gone. I've been really playing that game as whenever I have the time because, as I've said before, it's we're reviewing it, so I'm playing through it myself. It's good. Like I do enjoy it. I do have some problems with it. But I really do enjoy it when it has its moments. It definitely has its moments, but there are some things where I'm like, this is annoying. I'm not down with this. But again, I'll really go and talk about it more in detail in our review episode. But yeah, I've been playing through Days Gone. I can't even talk today. I don't know where my brain is today. It's all messed up. I've actually been I know that the new season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. just premiered because they were waiting for...
I've seen the first season, but I just fell off the show.
I don't blame you. I understand. It's one of those things where
it's good, and it's not because it was bad or anything. It just, I don't know. I lose interest in things sometimes, and I just stop.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm pretty much... I need to go ahead and see the newest episode of that. I need to play catch up on Flash, Legends, all of that, all the Arrowverse shows. The only reason I'm behind is because when back about 2 seasons ago, so 2 years ago, they would have it on Hulu. So the newest episodes would show up the next day. So I would go, oh, okay, so let me play. I would watch that thing. But now, because instead of the deal with Hulu, they now have it with Netflix. And because of how Netflix works, is that everything shows up all in one ooh-wop because it's all about that binge watching.
Sure.
Which... I like binge watching. Some shows, I like that. I like how with the Netflix originals where they go, here's the whole thing all at once, bam.
Yeah.
Like Dragon Prince. Oh, that was great. But when it's an episodic show that's on TV right now, but it's only on Netflix because of a contract deal, I have to wait until the season ends and then that kind of thing. And that's why I'm like, ugh. So, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of what's been going on with me. I've been spending just a lot of time in Days Gone. Just a lot of time with that. Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that this year, that exclusive, the past, at least 3 years, the big AAA PlayStation exclusives have just knocked it out of the park. Always gets to be part of the Game of the Year talks. But I don't think Days Gone is going to be part of that this year. Other reviews, with Days Gone, what happened is that I've been hearing about kind of reviews from other people and kind of their opinions on it. But a big thing is that the reason why the reviews are so are kind of like so low. It's surprising because if you like looked at IGN, Polygon, GameSpot, all of them, they were like, "Oh man, I can't wait for this game. This game looks exciting. Oh man, I can't wait to go ahead and play the full thing." Because about back in January, there was an event, and I think I've talked about this before. There was an event where PlayStation invited the video game media to it to go ahead and play it for a few hours, like pretty much the game.
Sure.
And they were like, "Oh, I can't wait! I can't wait! I can't wait!" And then the game comes out, and they're like, "It's kind of getting mediocre reviews," which is surprising. So they go from, "Man, this game is going to be awesome! I can't wait for this," to be like, "Yeah, there are some problems." Meh, blah, 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 blah. And I'm being very vague because I want to talk about it in the review, and I haven't finished the game yet. So when I finish the game, I can then go and talk about it. But from what I've experienced, there are I have already had some glitches dealing with on my gameplay and a few other things. But it's odd, and I think this is kind of maybe something we should definitely talk about in another episode. But it's surprising that the big name video game news outlets it's contradictory to them. You go ahead and say, "Oh, I can't wait to play it," and pretty much they play the finished game. It's pretty much there's some polish and stuff, and then the game comes out and it gets reviewed bomb. And mind you, these people got review copies too, so the reviews went out when the game launched. So it's not that they played it like I am, where I bought the game at launch and I'm reviewing it. There have been at least, I think they've done 7 major patches to the game, and the game it runs well. It still has some glitches, but not as bad as what I have heard before. But it still does have some problems with it. But it's one of those things where I find it's one of the things that kind of puts people at odds with the video games media news outlets. That's why some people don't trust the IGNs.
But you can trust us.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Because all of our opinions are infallible.
Well, it's more of we won't go ahead and sugarcoat it or anything.
Well, essentially then I think what you're getting at is it boils down to any bigger name. There's always money involved with everything that they do. Because that's the only reason that they really do it outside. I mean, I'm not going to say they don't have a passion for what they do, but that's 50% of anything you're doing for the most part.
Yeah, well, I will.
And I think that especially in the case of IGN, or at least depending on who's doing the writing, the people who review these games, I think that there's a lot of politics involved in the reviews that are given out, especially leading up to the release of a highly anticipated game, because it's more about just they'll pay people at IGN for a PR campaign essentially, because once it comes out and the initial, then it's not, they can review it however they want because they already got their initial money for reviewing it and doing news on it and basically exposure. That's what that payment is for.
The other thing is that
once it comes out, it's basically the only money that's going to be made on it is going to be the company who made it, one way or the other. And IGN doesn't really have any stake in it anymore because it's already been released.
Well, one of the things that I again, that's why for me when I'm looking for news articles and stuff, IGN is probably the most reputable in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
they've had their problems. And
I'm not saying that I'm not saying they don't do a good job and don't have solid information. But again, it all comes down to individuals, and I still think that to some degree that opinions can be swayed in favor of a check.
Yeah, I understand that. Robin,
that's the reason that I always take every review I read with a grain of salt.
Of course,
I will play it and form my own decision. Same with watching a movie. There's plenty of movies that people that I know don't like that I do.
Yeah.
So it's by that logic, I could never just take someone's word for something unless I didn't have a way to verify it myself.
Yeah, that's why, for me, Robin Gaming, who is a well-known YouTuber, he is probably one of my favorite kind of video game YouTubers out there. He was invited to this same thing, and he came back and he put up a video talking about his experience there, and like pretty much they were out in the woods, they did like survival stuff and that kind of thing, and then they also played the game. Kind of that way you got to experience it, and that's kind of PlayStation,
like a sample platter.
Yeah,
like everything the game.
Yeah, and they wanted you to kind of immerse yourself into the world, which is PlayStation loves doing that when it comes to events like these. So I applaud them for that. But Robin Gaming says like the game was kind of felt like a Ubisoft open world checklist. You know, do these, and just travel around the world. Which I can agree with that now. And now, when I heard that at first, and this was back in January, I was like, I'll wait until the game comes out. Because he was saying it was bland and stuff, and the game comes out, and he goes, "I stick."
Well, you don't want to fall prey to confirmation bias, where you just like you hear something and then like you try to basically look for the problems as opposed to experiencing it by itself.
Exactly.
Which is why I tend not to really screw with reviews unless it's a game that I don't have to pay a lot of money for, or I just kind of want an idea of what the best game in a series may be.
Yeah.
Something along those
lines.
And
that's why like I've only been like hearing it in talks. I haven't actually looked at reviews and that kind of thing. It's just, Robin Gaming kind of put out when the game came out, he played it, he reviewed it. He did. There's a really good video. My brother has told me about it. I've told him to wait. I will watch it once I put up my review of Days Gone. But pretty much he was about. He was wondering what. Have you guys played it? Do you still agree with me, or do you not? And I really do appreciate Robin Gaming for kind of just being like, this is how I feel, even though it's bad, because he's saying like it feels generic. It doesn't, it's not up to the caliber that a lot of the other PlayStation exclusive Marvel Spider-Man, God of War, Uncharted 4, Horizon Zero Dawn, those kind of ones who have always been part of the Game of the Year contenders. Days Gone, I don't think is going to this year, just of what I've been hearing, and I actually do agree with kind of what I've been playing with. There is a lot of good, but there is some bad, and it does take it down. But I think we should and we'll have to come back and talk about kind of video game news media and kind of this kind of thing. But yeah, that's kind of what's been going on. But let's go ahead and move on. Let's go into our next segment, our first segment, News of the Nation.
Yeah, is it that exciting?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's the news.
You don't even have the news up.
Oh, well, whatever, dude. I can go ahead and pull that up right now.
How professional.
I am such a professional. Alrighty. Do you want to begin? Or
no, you go ahead.
Ooh, funsies. All right. So, first topic. NetherRealm's response to accusations of toxic working conditions. And this is coming from Variety. NetherRealm, the developers for the Mortal Kombat Injustice series, told Variety that they are, quote, actively looking into all allegations. We greatly appreciate and respect all of our employees and prioritize creating a positive work experience. This response comes nearly 2 weeks after allegations began appearing from former and current employees. Claims covered issues from exceedingly long work weeks and exploitative wages to gender discrimination. NetherRealm insists that they are, quote, quote, take these matters very seriously and are always working to improve our company environment.
Just as like a side note, like with the Riot walkout too.
Yeah.
At Riot Gaming and the League of Legends, like it feels like all of this is happening like right now, which is interesting. And I'm glad it is. These are things that need to happen.
Yeah.
But I just find it interesting. I think it's probably like a domino effect where once it happens on a big enough scale, like especially like 100 employees walked out of Riot.
Yeah.
And with social media, these things are instantly known.
Oh, yeah.
And again, League of Legends developers and it's the same kind of stuff. And I think that's terrible. Like it pretty much seems across the board that it's a sexist thing. That seems to be what I see as being the biggest issue that's most discussed, and why these things are happening is because of these toxic work environments where basically it's just unchecked hegemonic masculinity pervading, and sexism is basically being allowed, in addition to just, harassment, either verbal or physical, is essentially just going unpunished.
Yeah.
Like the I got punished, he got promoted, essentially, type of thing, and which is terrible. And, it's not something you probably thought about too much in the video game industry, because you don't really get a lot of behind the scenes, it's not as far as industry goes, like if this were to happen at a Fortune 500 company or something, not to say that it still doesn't happen and probably still, but it would face more scrutiny than I think the gaming industry has, at least up until, this happening. Obviously, that, is, again, a result of a change in our social consciousness, and kind of how things are developing in our society and culture is changing with things like, gender and sexism and a lot of these issues that are now coming to the forefront.
And then the other one is that it says exceedingly long work weeks, which pretty much is crunch.
That too.
That's just crunch.
I'm just saying across the board.
Oh, I agree.
That's the one thing that has appeared in all of them. Again, crunch. That's another thing. Yeah, crunch.
It's like
time,
crunch. That's like the big. That's like the big one.
And it also kind of it didn't start, but Konami.
Yeah,
was the big first one where people were just, not having it, and why Kojima left.
Yep.
It's
odd. Like, I find this surprising because, I follow.
I'm just glad that it's finally getting, more coverage, because the changes need to occur in those workplaces.
Oh no, I completely.
And
agree.
it's basically because up until I guess you could say with Konami, it's not like this is the first instance, but it happening through multiple companies to this degree, and people just literally saying, we're going to walk out, because it's like, it sucks that you have to jeopardize such a great, what would seemingly be such a great career to have, simply by, not wanting to speak your mind with things that you don't agree with in the company. And that's essentially a totalitarian regime.
Yeah.
It's what's the difference between that and the thought police? It's like you're going to lose your really cushy, game design job, whatever facet of the company you may be in, because you're not a man, or because you're not a man, one, and if you are and you still disagree, you're still, it's like you should, that's bullshit. Like, that you should have to basically hold your tongue because of, fearing of losing your job, within the realms of what the law says you should be able to just bring up without having any repercussions.
I mean, yeah.
Like that, it was, what was it called? Private arbitration, which was a thing that with Riot Games, basically, I don't know a lot about it. I'm by no means an expert. But essentially, and they're now looking at it again, saying that they're, revising it, but they basically had a lot of employees sign this private arbitration agreement, which basically says you can't say or do anything about the workplace by signing this document in exchange for getting it. That's probably oversimplifying. There's probably a lot more legal jargon to it.
No, I get you.
But that's essentially it. And they're just like, this is bullshit, and this is not how things should be run.
No, because
that's why walkouts happen. Because they basically pulled up private arbitration as a means to try to defend their position with these employees going, in the terms of Riot, going against them. And it was when that happened that, anybody who was on the fence about, the walkout, or they were just like, nope, no. You're basically saying, you signed this thing saying that you can't essentially do or complain about any of the work environment related things, and people are just like, yeah, fuck yourself. I'm not, I'm not going to prescribe to that nonsense anymore. Even if it doesn't directly affect me, it's like, I don't want to work at a company that supports basically treating your employees that way.
No, I agree.
You can't do it because they signed something which in the first place was a bullshit rule to even have instilled to try to protect your sex.
No, I agree.
Because it's essentially them just trying to protect save face, because they're all a bunch of misogynistic assholes who think that they can do whatever they want and get away with it just because they're females in a workplace that is extremely lucrative and maybe hard to get into, but that doesn't mean that you should be able to threaten someone's livelihood so that you can make sexist remarks to them and call them nicknames during their work shift.
No, I completely agree.
Like, if there's one thing that'll piss me off, it's shit like that.
No, I agree. Look, the other thing is that the crunch is kind of the big one on me.
That too. That's
like,
I mean, just overworked is that's a tried and that goes without saying, but like that's a very tangible thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like hours worked, you have documents showing your hours worked and what you should be getting paid, or but when it comes to the dynamics of like interpersonal relationships in the workplace, that's 50% of like if you don't feel comfortable where you're working, like. There's few things bar like I mean obviously you could be making good money and have a lot of resources blah 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 blah
Mm-hmm.
but it's like at what cost like I wouldn't want to be in the position that any of those in this case any of the women being basically discriminated against or ignored in terms of their voices being heard, and it takes all these things happening and all these people finally jumping on board, men and women alike, regardless of what your situation is, to say that this isn't right. I don't care what you may or may not have signed. That's bullshit in the first place.
No, and then when it comes down to crunch, it's surprising because I've been seeing more third-party developers and studios being upset with crunch, working ridiculous hours. We've heard about even Epic Games, the guys of Fortnite, they're working ridiculous hours trying to keep up the speed with
you don't even got time to spend all the money they're making.
Exactly. Like, and this is the developers on these are the people working on the game.
And they get paid right. I mean, like, and I know they make good money, but I mean, for what they do, absolutely. I'm not arguing that that's a negative thing. It's just like it's like being a truck driver. You get paid a lot of good money, but you're never home. You're always doing, it's like you don't even have time to enjoy what you're trying to work. You're basically wasting all of your life trying to save up enough to live out the latter half of your life in luxury.
Yeah, I want to go on a little side tangent.
Or comfortably at the very least.
I want to go on a little side tangent. This past week, Santa Monica and Cory Barlog and PlayStation just released a documentary called Raising Kratos. And it's pretty much the development of the God of War game that came out last year in 2018, and kind of the history of Kratos, the legacy that he has within the PlayStation brand, and then how that game was made. And I was watching it, and there were pretty much God of War was a Hail Mary. Santa Monica got layoffs because of the mediocre response from God of War Ascension. They were working on a project called Internal 7, which got canceled because of the layoffs. And pretty much this was a Hail Mary because if God of War did not succeed, Santa Monica would be in big trouble. I'm not saying they're not they're not in a good place. They weren't like going to get lose, how EA was like, oh, let's go ahead and get rid of Visceral. Like Santa Monica would be around, but they would have lost a lot. Near the end of the documentary, it kind of shows how they pushed it back from, I think it was supposed to come out in February, to the April launch. And they couldn't push it back anymore. They were running out of money that PlayStation was giving them, and pretty much the head of Santa Monica, Cory Barlog, and pretty much the head team, pretty much we have to get this game out. So they were working a lot of hours, but and mind you, this is from PlayStation, so you don't want to go ahead and just be like, oh yeah, we treat our people poorly, from what I've heard, what I've seen from tweets from Cory Barlog and everyone there had worked well with each other. There were no problems. I didn't even hear anything coming out even during the development. This game has been in development since 2013. But they did work long hours. They would have to sacrifice a lot. They did a little bit where the head of Santa Monica, she has missed multiple Mother's Days because she had to be at Santa Monica to continue working on this game, so on and so forth. These developers, what I love about Santa Monica is the head of Santa Monica, she's there. She's not just well, I'm here, clock in, clock out.
Like a king that joins the battle as opposed to stands behind the army.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. That's what I really like liked about that documentary, and I highly recommend everyone go and watch Raising Kratos. It's almost 2 hours, but it's worth your time. But the reason why I wanted to go off on that side tangent is that what I've been seeing is that all the people that are complaining or having these problems, like NetherRealm is right now, Riot Games, Epic, so on and so forth, are all third parties. I haven't heard anything from anyone within first parties, Crunch, anything like that.
Yeah, well, that's also probably because they have so many employees and have so much money that crunch is not necessary because they have the luxury of taking as long as they want. They don't have to do crunches because they're not like essentially like the large-scale game developer version of like living paycheck to paycheck, which is essentially it's like game to game is like how they're surviving as a company. Whereas like and I guess, and I can't say, and this is like nothing, none of this is certain, but it's like, if I had to guess, like someone like Rockstar, who has insane resources, money, and employee like count, no doubt, and is just, you know, does like even with what they, without even having coming out with another game because GTA 5 and the online is just doing so well. But I'm just saying, like they don't have. As they can.
Well, they're owned by Take-Two. They're owned by 2K.
Well, whatever. I'm just saying, like they have enough. They do like what they do and like how much money and resources that they've been able to acquire allow them the luxury of taking years to make a game without hurting the bottom line and not having to overwork people because they don't. They're not going to run out of money in the amount of time that it's going to take to make it. But these smaller companies and developers don't have that luxury. They need, because they don't have the amount of resources to be able to stretch out the timeline of making a game.
Well, I mean, you got to look at this. I understand. Like, WB is the publisher behind NetherRealm. WB does, they were behind Shadow of War, which is, not Avalanche, Monolith. But like WB is kind of like that's a subsection of the WB brand. So like there's that. EA has already, we've heard countless of times of crunch from EA Studios, especially from BioWare. We've heard crunch from Activision. We have heard crunch from Epic, especially Epic.
And in BioWare's case, like they had this whole pervading BioWare magic philosophy that they keep trying to like that I've like heard about, that they try to tell their employees, like, you know, that like things will just work out because they always have, and that's essentially what they believe. They'll tell people like, oh, it's okay, like because things like the BioWare magic, like it's gonna come together at the end, crunch or otherwise, just because that's how it always has worked. And it's like that is not a business model that you should have.
No, I mean, like that's not a business model, but like it is one of those things where like when it comes to with you, are you talking about like with BioWare?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. My brain went somewhere else. No, look, that's not good because then you have because now look at what happened to Anthem. Look at Dragon Age 2. Look at Mass Effect.
Or if Dragon Age 4 will happen.
The whole team, that whole Anthem thing, we talked about this multiple times, is just the whole team behind Anthem. Tons of people left. The head, like, corporate EA didn't
and it's like, and that's another point that I've heard brought up. It's like, it's not even the same BioWare that it used to be.
No.
It doesn't, it's like, it might as well be a different developer at this point because so many people have been swapped out.
It's crazy, and like, that's why.
Not to say that the people that there aren't probably talented individuals on it that could still do good things. I'm just, it's not. You can't adhere to something like BioWare magic. Things that will work out as they always have because it's not the same group of people that probably like that initiated that whole idea in the first place. Like when things were starting out.
And that's not how you want to do it, and that's why, like, with Respawn, knowing that the head of Respawn, of the company itself, is on the board of directors of EA, can protect them, unlike with BioWare.
True, but we should probably move on.
I agree.
A little bit too
I agree.
It could go on all day. That could be its own conversation topic.
I agree. I agree. Let's move on. But as I said, this will be a continuing thing. I really hope that NetherRealm takes care of this, because NetherRealm is a good developer and a good studio. But anyway, let's move on.
So, going on next, Hideo Kojima still teasing Death Stranding trailer. He posted another photo on Twitter of a possible Death Stranding trailer tease, similar to the one he posted a couple of weeks ago, with two monitors, one with Death Stranding logo and the other that appears to be video editing software. Kojima hasn't publicly shown any new footage for the game, but Guerrilla Games has been shown the first 2 hours of the game. Death Stranding is not expected to be at E3 as it's a PlayStation exclusive, and Sony will not have a presence at this year's show.
Yep.
I mean, as far as Death Stranding goes, I'm very excited for that game, mainly because I have been waiting for... Yeah.
This is what it looks
And Kojima
like
is just like an absolute genius, and he's just a boss.
I know
he's just
he
like
is.
probably
I
one of my
love him.
all-time favorite.
I love him.
Like, because he's a great personality, as well as being enigmatic, but he's also a genius.
Oh, he's
Not only in story writing, but in developing. Like, he could do everything himself if he wanted to, but he doesn't have to because he's Kojima.
Mind you, he's nuts because he's a perfectionist, which I don't blame him on. But there is a part where, like, I'm glad that he's a perfectionist, but then there comes a point where I'm like, all right, you've used up all of our money. Please give us our game so we can make it back.
Yeah.
And which, like, this game has been working on.
But it's like anything that he's come out with has been great.
Just sells. Like,
That's what it takes.
and I agree. I'm not saying that. It's just, I'm okay with Kojima, him and his team at Kojima Productions taking their time on this game.
Same thing with like the same idea goes behind like CD Projekt Red with
I agree.
like they're taking their time for Cyberpunk 2077.
That game is going to make money.
And it's like, but it's like,
oh my god.
or Final Fantasy VII the remake, same
yeah.
idea, taking their time to make something, because it's like Miyamoto said, it's a bad game will be bad forever, but a good game, it's like that. So it's, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but it's like, but it'll be better to take time to make a good game rather than make a game that will be bad forever.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's why we continue.
But I mean, just to keep on track with just the game launching and everything, like I'm excited for it because I still got to beat Evil Within 2 because I'm like halfway through it, but I love survival horror.
Okay.
And I've always, like, Silent Hill was always my favorite. I haven't played all of them, but their themes, ideas, and, like, everything, I've always liked that kind of horror. Outside of Lovecraftian horror, like straight up Call of Cthulhu, Eternal Darkness type of stuff. Although that new game, there's a new game that came out. It's like Fade to Silence. That looked really interesting.
I've never heard of it. So
Check it. It looks interesting.
Okay.
But Death Stranding, like, I mean, I remember years ago, I don't know exactly when, but I remember first seeing the trailer for it with, like, I think back when, like,
that was the announcement
PT was still around.
Yeah, that was the announcement of the PS4.
Yeah, and it looks like a horror game, like, because not really, honestly, if you think about it, not a lot of horror games come out anymore, like, at all.
No.
Like, Evil Within 2 was, like, the last, like, I mean, outside of the remake of Resident Evil 2, which I both count and don't count because it's a remake.
I understand.
Not to say that it isn't vastly different in lots of ways.
Did Resident Evil 7... No, I think Resident Evil 7 came out...
That came out before the remake.
No, but I'm talking about... Did it come out after or before Evil Within 2?
I think it was after.
Okay.
Because that was like the advent of the VR, and I definitely know that Evil Within 2 was out before the VR came into prominence.
Okay.
But, like, I think Evil Within 2 or Resident Evil 7... were the last, like, new, true, like, survival horror IPs, especially given the fact that even Evil Within 2 was developed by the Resident Evil team. Mm-hmm. But I liked Evil Within 2 better because it plays and looks to a degree like Resident Evil, but feels like Silent Hill in the world of, like, Union and, like, the way that it's put together, the very Japanese horror aspect of it.
Yeah.
Not to say that doesn't make appearances in Resident Evil as well, but it's definitely not the same.
Yeah.
It's much more of the feel of Silent Hill, walking around and, having to deal with stuff as it pops up, as opposed to being, like... Not to say, like, again, that happens in Resident Evil as well, but again, same developer. But I don't know, there was just the atmosphere of Evil Within, especially given the nature of its story, and the themes of, like, guilt and betrayal and regret and all of those things, give it much more of a Silent Hill feel, which is what I always liked about the Silent Hill games as compared to anything else, was their ability to create that very, like, I don't want to know, like, I guess spooky, but very just, like, bleak atmosphere, and have, like, very, very, like, high undertones with emotional aspects driving most of what the game really means. Everything is very symbolic.
Yeah.
And outside of those, I mean, this Fade to Silence, which I haven't played, and I looked up into a little, seems to be similar in the survival horror aspect, but Death Stranding to me looks like it's gonna get back to the old. I don't know. It's gonna get back to what I really liked about horror games that when they were coming out in succession.
I think this is the Kojima game that he wanted to make.
Which is
Silent Hill. This is the
basically
Silent Hill
PT.
game he wanted
It's
to make.
like probably PT, but on a bigger scale because Norman Reedus is still involved and. It seems like what he wanted to do, but he went in a different direction with it because he had more carte blanche now that he wasn't under Konami's boot heel.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen trailers and I still have no idea what the hell is going on.
I mean, because I'm into horror literature and a lot of that stuff and movies and such. So I can
Call of Cthulhu.
Well, and just those ideas. So from what I've seen, I can make insinuations and assumptions about obviously the main storyline. I don't know, but there's definitely elements of there's supernatural entities. There was that invisible Sasquatch or whatever it is.
I have no idea.
They obviously have high technology as well. So I feel like it's almost going to be kind of like I'm feeling like not necessarily post-apocalyptic, but it's going to either be an alternate universe or an after-the-fact world, or just a very far in the future where supernatural elements have blended in with reality and left the world in the state that it's in. But it definitely has my interest.
Yeah, no, I'm still looking forward to it. That's a PS5 game, though.
Oh,
That's
absolutely,
totally.
I would be
game.
surprised, almost disappointed if it. I mean, although I think it would be smart on their part. It would be a PS5 game, which is why we're going to have to wait for it. But I think that releasing a PS4 version would be smart.
It's going to be like the
it'll be like a bundle with the PS5.
It's built for the PS5. That's its launch title. But you can also buy it on the PS4. Yeah. But it's just not as shiny
because they can't. Yeah, it's going to be a bundle. I will be remiss and surprised if they do not have a Death Stranding bundle with the PS5
at launch. At launch,
I don't know about. I mean, would that really surprise you?
I would. I mean,
because what else is there?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It depends on when they want to launch it. I honestly think Death Stranding should be a launch game, mind you.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to push the console.
That would be a massive selling point.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I would be surprised if they don't do it because it's going to push the hype of the PS5 up even higher as being a launch title. One of the things people assume is going to be on the PS5 is going to be that game.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, let's move on. Next topic. WWE 2K Studio Yuke's is creating a rival wrestling IP. This is definitely down my alley, as if you haven't known, we also have a wrestling podcast called Weighing In. Me and Derek, we do pretty much a debate between Raw and SmackDown, which show won for that week, along with doing predictions, reactions, other stuff like that regarding the wrestling. So I love this kind of stuff, and I like hearing about this. So the veteran WWE 2K developer Yuke's has established a new development team that is tasked with creating a rival wrestling IP, and this is an article coming from Video Games Chronicle. They had a interview which in which the senior vice president and producer Hiromi
Where are you looking?
Right here.
Furuta,
thank you. Pretty much, it goes on. Pretty much that she's says that Yus has been frustrated with what it's been able to achieve within the past WWE games, and has suggested that its relationship with 2K Sports is partially responsible. Now, we've seen this. If you look at NBA, pretty much the thing is, I've gotten tired of the WWE 2K games because it's just... Here's the new roster of wrestlers who have come into NXT or up to the main roster. Here's your virtual currency and all this kind of stuff. You have your normal WWE stuff.
I mean, I haven't played too many. I own 17, and it's a fun game, but honestly, I haven't played it since the first few weeks since I bought it, just because I mean, and given the nature of wrestling, I mean, obviously you're more of an authority, but it's a very simple game. There's not a lot to it.
No,
as far as like the combat system,
and like
it's like it doesn't. It's just it gets boring to
Yeah,
me.
no,
there's
I
nothing.
agree.
There's nothing like unlike a game like Blaze Blue or Mortal Kombat or any given like True Fighter. Not I mean like side. You know what I mean?
No, I do.
Even a game like Jump Force or Naruto. Shippuden.
Yeah, no,
Like a Ninja Storm. Like there's a lot more depth to it, and it's like there's a lot more things that you can do in it.
I completely agree. And look, for me, I think it's actually it's overcomplicated. I've played a lot of WWE games. I think it's overcomplicated because what they want to do is that like every time you do a grapple, it's as if you're doing it. So you press a button to do a grapple, but then you have to go ahead and press another button to do this one grapple and that kind of thing. Where my favorite WWE game outside of Here Comes the Pain is kind of like the 09, 2010, 2011 games. Those kind of like around that time, SmackDown versus Raw, where it was pretty much very easy. You had one button to do your counter, your right thumbstick in either direction, depending on it was like one of 4 different grapples. You had square as your strike, triangle as your finisher. And then you had, like, it was very easy to pick up. I still felt like I was playing as a wrestler in the game, but it was easy to pick up and it was fun. It was like, oh man, let me do all these things. And then you had to create a superstar, and then you had campaigns and stuff. But now it's just kind of generic. It's now becoming just let's make NBA but with wrestlers instead of a completely different 2K game, a 2K sports game.
Sure.
It just felt like 19 just feels like NBA but with wrestling. It's ridiculous. It's like, in order to make your wrestler be better, use virtual currency. You get virtual currency by doing matches, but you get more if you spend more money. Like, no, that's not what I want to do.
No.
And there's nothing interesting. The manager mode is boring, and there's too much when it comes to the controls. I'm just like, I can't. So hearing about this, that they're making a rival, like a whole new, brand new wrestling IP, that excites me. Part of me is going, yo, did Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and the Khan family, the guys behind All Elite Wrestling, AEW, did they go to these guys and go, hey, make a wrestling game for us? If it's All Elite Wrestling, which is the new competitor to the WWE brand that's coming up, Double or Nothing is coming up in about 2 weeks, which we'll go ahead and be watching that, and you'll see our reactions and stuff like that. Me and Derek, well, I don't know if you want to join, but but I can't wait for Double or Nothing. But anyway, I would love to see if it's AEW. But even if it's just WWE All-Stars, that was just a side game that was, all the characters looked kind of over the top and cartoony, but like you could, like, if you wanted to do on the jump do a move off the top rope, you would like be flying 6 feet in the air,
like an NBA Jam.
Yeah, like
like a goofy version.
Like
of it.
I would love to play that. That would be
sure,
fun.
I'd be down to play that.
But it's she's saying I think having no competitor isn't healthy at all. When we had competitors in the wrestling space, we were determined not to lose, and it was a great motivator for creating something great. Which is, I agree, and that's why I think
take the Souls approach and try to do like a tactical melee wrestling game.
Oh, dude, that'd be rad.
If you could do it right, I feel like that would be awesome.
Yuke's has made good wrestling games.
Oh, sure.
It's just they've gotten stale. They've just been kind of used to the same.
Well, that's the thing.
Because no one else is making wrestling games.
Well, right, and that's the other thing with just sports games in general is like.
Well, mind you,
it's just a polished version of the same thing.
Well, mind you,
and they might throw a gimmick in there to try to make it.
It's contracts. That's the problem. Is that PlayStation has a contract with the MLB, so there's RBI baseball, but who wants to go ahead and play?
Nobody, yeah, and it's like everyone likes because I don't play baseball. But like everyone likes the show, nobody wants RBI.
Yeah, why?
But RBI is the only one you can get on anything other than a PlayStation.
Exactly. That there's others, or EA is trying to do NBA Live, but because 2K is kind of just taken over, people play 2K over NBA Live. Madden.
I prefer 2K NBA over Live, but that's
what I mean. People prefer the 2K games over live.
But some people don't. Some people like live better. But I haven't played live, so.
But the majority is that it's yo, bro, you got the 2K, bro? Yo, man, did you play that 2K? Mind you, if you talk to me, I think you're talking about wrestling. So that's why I'm talking about NBA or WWE. But like that's why I would love to see other competitors. But the problem that we can't is because EA has a contract with the NFL. EA has a contract with FIFA.
Yep.
You're using those teams. Why would I want to go ahead and like even with basketball? Why would I want to go ahead? I want to play as the Bucks. I don't want to go ahead and play as the Ducks. Although the Mighty Ducks from NHL are rad, but that's me. But anyway, you get my point. Sure. I don't want to play as a knockoff team. I want to play as the team that I support and I watch on TV right now, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, I think that's rad. I think it's awesome that they want to make a new IP to kind of compete with themselves, which is good. This is good. Moving on.
So, EA Access is coming to PS4. The service gives players access to a library of EA games, including franchises like Battlefield, FIFA, Madden, Star Wars Battlefront, and more. In addition, subscribers can access EA Play's first trials, where they can play up to 10 hours of new games. EA Access also grants a 10% discount of full EA purchases, expansions, and in-game items, and it's available for $5 a month or $30 a year. It can be purchased through PlayStation Store. As of now, it appears paying for a subscription of EA Access on Xbox One will not carry over to PS4 and vice versa. As we continue to invest in digital and subscription services, bringing our games to even more people across both consoles is an exciting opportunity for everyone. Quote from Matt Bilby.
Yeah.
Bilby,
the Executive VP of Strategic Growth.
Yeah. Our goal is to give players more choice to try and play our games wherever and however they choose, and we're happy to bring the service to PlayStation 4.
And this comes from IGN.
I mean, honestly, I don't even have much to say about that. It's just it's a smart business move.
Yeah, no, I agree.
think that's really all there is to that.
I mean, having EA Access on PlayStation, honestly, is definitely good.
It's just going to basically make them more money.
Exactly.
I mean, just by increasing the demographic that you're able to sell to.
Yeah, and as I said, I already have I love my physical games, and there's not a lot of EA games that I like really.
Yeah, honestly, there's other than the upcoming Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah. That's it.
That's about it.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't play. I mean, I own a few older sports games that I just have to have them that I got really cheap because they're older. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't really play any EA games to any
I don't play
degree.
Battlefield, even though Battlefield, I don't play online shooters like that.
Yeah.
I don't play any of the sports games outside of wrestling, and even then I haven't really played wrestling. No, I mean, but again, this is really good, and I guess, I don't know. We'll see if EA is going to say anything around E3 time, or if they're going to be at E3, because we said before that they have chosen not to show up at E3, but instead have their own event across the streets at their own building. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. I don't know. But yeah, that's definitely good. And that's all we got. I think that's all the articles, right? Yeah, all right. So let's move into our next segment, the PlayStation Conversation. This is our main topic. This is where we kind of spend the majority of our time talking about stuff. So, this is another news article, but this is kind of a big one. Pretty much, U.S. legislation could limit loot box sales to children in the Protecting Children from Abusive Games Act. Senator Josh Hawley, Hawley, because it's not Holly, that Holly, Holley, it's Hawley. But anyway, he put out a statement. He's the one who's created this bill that is going through legislation, through Congress, to pretty much ban loot boxes, ban microtransactions. I've pulled up this is a PDF. This is pretty much a one-page PDF that talks about the act itself. Let me go ahead and pull this over for a quick second if I can. There we go. So it's the Protecting Children from Abusive Games Act. Senator Hawley's legislation would apply new consumer protections to games played by minors. Minors including games targeted at those under the age of 18, which this would be determined by subject matter, visual content, other indicators.
I'm sure that the ESRB would just, I mean...
Well, yeah. So, like pretty much I think what that means is that, like, microtransactions are going to be part of the ESRB.
Right.
Games with wider audiences who developers knowingly allow minors to engage in microtransactions. Fortnite, Apex Legends, FIFA, Madden, Call of Duty, all of that stuff. In such games, this bill would prohibit several forms of manipulative design. 1, loot boxes, microtransactions offering randomized or partially randomized rewards to players. 2, pay to win, which is the manipulation of games progression of a game's progression system, typically by building or artificial difficulty or other barriers into game progression to induce players to spend money on microtransactions to advance through content supposedly available to them at no additional cost. Pay to win, manipulation of competitive balance between players of multiplayer games by allowing player who purchases the microtransactions competitive advantages over other players who choose not to. And then enforcement was the third. These rules would be and then enforcement. These would be enforced by the the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, which would treat the distribution of such games by publishers and online distributors as an unfair trade practice. State attorney generals would also be empowered to file suit to defend the residents of their state. So pretty much, it's loot boxes and microtransactions. Anything, and it's pay to win and loot boxes. Loot boxes as a whole. And then anything that is pay to win, like in Battlefront 2. And really, this whole thing, like, the bubble burst with Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
And I know...
and in Europe, they already consider most microtransactions like gambling.
Yep,
they have outlawed them.
That's why Take-Two, or 2K, and EA have fought or are fighting... I don't know if it's been taken care of yet, but they are fighting tooth and nail to keep them because that's like 80% of, I believe 80%, but it's a massive portion of their profits. Mm-hmm. If they lose FIFA Ultimate Team, if they lose Madden Ultimate Team, at least FIFA, because that's the
biggest game, it's the biggest sport in the world. Mm-hmm. So it's probably the most purchased sport game there
exactly. is. Exactly. It is. Even if they just lose FIFA Ultimate Team completely. Like, that's a massive hit to them.
Yeah.
Mind you, I'm never a fan of it. So, I mean, like, to me, I'm okay with that. But, like, oy. So, but I can get behind this because I never like pay to win. And I even loot boxes, like in Shadow of War, I never understood why there was a loot box in a game that... like, you pretty much, in order to get through the end game, you had to do these loot boxes, and it was much faster to buy them. And that, mind you, it only happened in the end game, but it was still one of those things that frustrate me. Now, I have said this before, and I'll say this again. Injustice 2 is, in my opinion, the best way how they did loot boxes, where you're just going to get a bunch of them. You can the only reason you get these loot boxes is to get high gear. But in a fighting game, like in tournaments, you would turn that off. You can turn off
another. I think good example is actually Need for Speed Payback.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, because I'm not super into racing games, but I picked it up, and they have a lot of different because you get parts for your car and cosmetics and different items to customize, and which will give you make your car better or worse or whatever. But you earn it by playing, number one. And you also have the ability to either sell back stuff you get, and they're not really loot boxes, but kind of. Mm-hmm. But you can sell back stuff you get or trade them in for these basically tokens that you can use to randomly roll for certain parts, but you get to pick aspects of the part that you would get. But you're not paying any money for it at all.
It's hard because I don't like loot boxes.
I guess I just don't consider it what most people consider a loot box, but you could probably make the argument.
Yeah, and I'm playing devil's advocate. Look, if it was up to me, I would love to just go ahead and get rid of the loot boxes in Injustice. We even talked about this in our Mortal Kombat review, the RNG when it comes to the crypt. Trying to for me, I play as Johnny Cage. So I want his fatalities and his brutalities. I want those unlocked and his outfits unlocked. But, you go through the crypt and you open up a box and you get katana. I don't play as katana, so, that kind of stuff. You can't choose. You can't pick and choose what you want. And I think that's the biggest problem. It's all RNG, which is...
Well, if you could pick and choose what you want, you wouldn't even need a crypt then. You could just pick out of a list of items, and it would basically just, that's the only other option outside of what they have.
I get you.
Because then you always know... not to say that some people wouldn't like that, but, I think some form of randomization is fun, because otherwise, what's the point?
You would get the stuff for your main, and you would never go back.
Right.
I guess.
So then they wouldn't even want, they wouldn't even put time into having it as a feature in the game otherwise, because then what's the point? You just go through a list, it's I want this, this, and this, and then you grind for money to get this, this, and this, and then that's it.
Yeah. It's hard. It's a hard balancing act when it comes to these kind of things. And I don't know. I'm going to pull up, this is a statement coming from Hawley's offices. Yeah, so Senator Hawley to introduce legislation banning manipulative video game features aimed at children. This is kind of it's kind of repeating what the statement said, but it kind of gives it examples. So Senator Josh Hawley is who has been a fierce critic of social media practices that prey on the addiction of users. Announced today that he will introduce a landmark legislation banning the exploitation of children through pay-to-win and loot box monetization practices in the video game industry. Quote, social media and video games prey on user addiction, siphoning our kids' attention from the real world and extracting profits from fostering compulsive habits. No matter this business model's advantage to the tech industry, one thing is clear: there is no excuse for exploiting children through such practices. When a game is designed for kids, game developers shouldn't be allowed to monetize addiction. And when kids play games designed for adults, they should be walled off from compulsive microtransactions. Game developers who knowingly exploit children should face legal consequences.
And I agree.
And this literally just speaks Fortnite. All I'm hearing that's screaming in my head is Fortnite.
Yep.
That's all I'm hearing. Because the difference between Apex Legends and Fortnite is that, I've kind of seen articles and stuff where, articles that say, oh, Apex Legends is failing, it's dying, it's dead. And I'm like, no. Apex Legends knows who its audience is. Apex Legends is the audience who used to play Unreal tournaments, who wants that, just
arena
the finesse of a first-person shooter, straight up and down finesse of it. Kind of like back during the days of Halo 2, that kind of stuff, just straight up and down finesse of it. Where Fortnite, it's if you look, Fortnite is always number one,
and it's trash.
And that's our opinion. I'm not a fan of it. But here's the thing. There are some things that I do like about it. Like when they did the Avengers Endgame event where pretty much you could pretty much play as Thor, Cap. You would find items in the battle royale, in the mode, in the arena, and you would find they would be weapons of Thor's hammer and Cap's shield and so on and so forth. And then you would get powers like that. So they would be your weapons, which is really cool. Fortnite continues to do updates over and over and over and over again, where Apex, every few months there's one new character and maybe a new thing, but that's about it. Apex is just geared towards its own audience, where Fortnite, the whole thing, if you talk to, kids love it. It's the cartoony, over-the-top, animation style that Fortnite has. That's what makes it appealing to kids, and I don't blame them.
I have nothing against its design, direction, its art direction or anything like that either. It's just I personally just find it boring.
Yeah.
There's aspects of it that are cool, but I don't know. It's just not a game I could play more than 2 rounds of before there's better games in my shelf that I would play.
Yeah, but the big thing is that I
would pick Apex out of the 2.
I agree.
Absolutely.
But kids love Fortnite. They do the dances. Like they.
I think it's died down a little bit.
Oh, but it's
but it definitely, yeah. But like, I mean, like, because there was a period, yeah, like where like I would just see them doing it in public. It was ridiculous. It was like, dude, like, and it's insane.
Mind you, like I've seen kids still do it. So like,
I'm not saying it doesn't still happen, but I just think it's like slightly died down as far as like just the overall like phenomenon. Like, it literally just took over.
Oh, yeah. It totally did.
Like, people going to rehab for Fortnite addiction.
And, like...
It's like, you need to get a hobby, kid. But then again, there's also the allure of making money, because if you get good at it, you can make money in tournaments because of how huge and competitive it is.
Yeah. Like,
it pretty much superseded the League of Legends before where League of Legends was like selling out stadiums and stuff like that, or Overwatch.
No, yeah, but like
because Overwatch was also huge
I know.
when it came out.
Oh, I know, but the thing is that like if you talk to like that's like the kids who are like hardcore, they love this, but like any kid and like I've
basically it's a free game that everyone plays, and that. In conjunction with its art direction and its ease of play and its competitive nature, is basically just a powder keg. And if you just like throw the ability to like make money,
and that's what they
off of the fact that they can like, but I want to, because you can't pay to win because it's all cosmetic.
So that's one thing I will, again, we've talked about this before,
but that doesn't change how you're still
it's
because they don't have loot boxes because they have all the same weapons, and it's like randomized on what you'll find in game.
No, but like you use V-Bucks to get, I believe you can choose to get I think you can, I don't believe it's like loot boxes, but it still is microtransactions.
Yeah, they still have those.
But what I'm saying is like the reason why, people have like that Fortnite addiction or the, that kind of thing is because every week or less, there's always a new. That's
another thing is they constantly are changing it.
Like what they do is like, if you don't buy this week, it'll be gone forever.
Well, that's not new though. Like any Business 101 class,
exactly.
That's the same thing that Steam sales do.
Of course.
It's like it's super cheap now. It's going to be more, so you're losing money if you don't buy it now.
But what the thing is that like it's kind of the kids see that and they're like, oh, I need this so that I can be the coolest kid on the block,
When in all actuality, no one gives an egg. No one cares.
No one cares.
And no one ever will, and it's never going to make a difference ever to anybody who you see like. Like I would like I said, like, and I love I'm a graphic designer. I love aesthetics as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to pay for it.
Yep.
And the thing is, if I would pay for it, I'd want an advantage. But then again, that would go against me not agreeing with paying to win. Yeah. And that's why it's almost impossible to have like a perfect synergy of the both of them.
No.
Because you're going to fall into one category or the other.
Yeah, Holly
have both, which is even worse.
Yeah, Holly brings up an example in his statement. It says...
Candy Crush is... That's where I think the conversation started.
Oh, yeah. This is exactly,
basically with that game.
Well, like what made it mainstream, I believe.
Because mobile gaming is... Especially like when you take into account that mobile gaming is so big in China... Which is huge.
Well, mind you, remember...
And that's, like, mobile transactions make more money than almost anything else.
But remember, even, like, 5 years ago, like, that was kind of the big thing, is that, like, these AAA, like, EA, Activision, they were like, oh, we want to get into the mobile market, let's try to get there. And they would start making mobile games and stuff, and they always failed, but then what they did is like, let's just do this. And that's why now we have microtransactions in Call of Duty, which is ridiculous, in Battlefield, in Battlefront, in Fortnite, all that kind of stuff.
But I want to read the example.
Go ahead.
Son of a bitch.
Go ahead, brah.
You know the people can't get enough of this smooth caramel.
Yes.
So one notorious example of this practice.
Notorious.
Candy Crush, a free puzzle game featuring Candyland-style cartoon aesthetic. If you don't know what Candy Crush is, I don't know what else to tell you, because it's literally like the biggest thing ever. It's essentially Bejeweled. Everybody just rips off Bejeweled, which rips off of every other incarnation, like Bubble and Bubble Bobble.
Whatever, but like this is the big.
But yeah, Cartoon Aesthetic offers players additional lives on a set timer, allowing players to purchase a $150 Luscious bundle, which includes 1,000 units of its gold bar, which is an in-game currency, variety pack of temporary boosters to reduce the game's difficulty, which is absolute bullshit, and 24 hours of unlimited lives. So a time limit on how much. So you have to play ferociously within a time
for
limit.
a day.
Yeah. And so the game touts this offering with a metal labeled best value, which I've taken classes in web design and user experience design, and those things are definitely taken into account by the people who are doing this. Mm-hmm. And it's all visual psychology. Candy Crush developer King earns parent company Activision Blizzard $2 billion annually, boasting 268 million monthly active users.
Because Activision owns.
And again, this is on a phone, which is even like 80% of all online interaction is done mobily.
Yep.
It in general, period, gaming or otherwise.
Yep.
But that also would apply to gaming. Mobile gaming is huge.
Yeah.
That's why they made Fortnite on your phone.
Yeah. So that way,
for that exact reason.
So that way you can take it on the go.
Right. Exactly.
Like that's the whole thing. It's absolutely crazy.
And that's why I think Nintendo just made it their business model and decided to just make a console that does that.
Yeah.
As opposed to, and they still are, had the Super Mario Run mobile. That was a big deal. Anything.
That was Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
Pokemon Go. Today is massive. That was the most genius thing I've ever. Even I remember when that game first came out. I'm like, oh, I'm here. Let me play this. And I remember the video in New York. I believe it was a Articuno or it was a legendary. Showed up in Central Park. Everyone stopped. They got people who were in traffic or whatever, stopped their cars, got out, and went to Central Park to catch this Pokemon.
Yep.
It was ridiculous.
I remember because I played it for a month before I got bored of it and having a dead battery all the time.
Yeah.
But it was fun, and I remember, I think it was called Lake Park.
Yeah.
It's somewhere around our area. There was this specific park that was just it just became huge.
Oh, yeah.
For the sole fact because it just had so many Pokemon all over the place.
Yep.
Literally crowds. It was like a festival. People was just there walking around playing Pokemon Go. That was literally the reason they were there.
Yep.
I remember eventually they had to, I think they started having to do something about it because there was just too many people showing up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because before that it was just some other park. It wasn't anything special.
Yeah, no. But it's absolutely crazy. So I pull up another article. This is coming from Venture Beat. But when I was kind of doing my research on this, I found this, and I found this actually interesting because the title of it is "Zero Chance It Passes." Game analysis break down the senators' analysts. You
said analysis.
Well, okay. Well, I thought
these things bother me, and they will continue to. So
great. I'm glad. So it's talking about the bill that Hawley has made. Let's see. One guy is. Let's see. I want to make sure I'm finding this correctly. All right. So I was right. I thought I meant something. So one guy is cautiously optimistic. The bill did surprise Joost van Durian.
Winner of the most European name of all time.
A co-founder of Nielsen-owned research firm Superdata. Quote, "It is a necessary step, and I personally support it. As gaming has become mainstream, it is only to be expected that there are new challenges and a need for the protection of certain sensitive consumer groups. The anxiety is, of course, that the U.S. will emulate China, where we've recently seen the effect of massive overhaul and subsequent slowdown of the regulatory framework. However, given the long history of self-regulation, I anticipate that the U.S. industry to rally to formulate and enforce their own regulatory framework long before the government figures out a difference between a loot box and a booster pack of collectible cards." And that's kind of the biggest thing. We have too many old people in the Senate who, if you try to explain what a loot box is, they're going to think, well, there's nothing difference between buying a pack of cards, a pack of baseball cards. You're not guaranteed that. And that's the argument, is that if you buy a pack of baseball cards.
I mean, that has some validity to it, but there is differences.
Mm-hmm. Where I play Yu-Gi-Oh. I play Yu-Gi-Oh very competitively.
I used to.
So
I get it.
The whole thing is that when you open a pack of cards, you're trying to.
I have a first edition Shinato King of a Higher Plane, by the way. Yeah.
Funsies.
And I've actually gotten to use it.
I have no idea if it's even worth anything right now.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yu-Gi-Oh cards aren't worth that much to begin with, honestly.
Well, no, if they're meta, yes, they are. There are cards currently that are worth like 80 to 90 to $100 right now.
Yeah, but Magic the Gathering will always be
I know,
price.
Magic. Yeah, that's why I don't play Magic.
Yeah.
That's why I don't play it. But anyway, when you open, you're always going after the chase secret. But here's the thing: is like if you pull that, me and my friends, we always say like, oh, you made your money back. You pulled the secret, you pulled the chase, because there's value. Each of these cards are worth blank amount of money,
and it'll tell you on the back what you're getting. So that in that regard, like what you're getting as far as like usually like
you're supposed like you're
gonna get a certain amount of common, one rare, the possibility of one super rare. It gives you the probabilities, which you don't get when you're just using a loot box. It's just like everything is completely unknown to you.
Well, it depends. It depends on the game.
Well, true.
Like for me, I played Legacy Wars. That's the one mobile game that I've played, and they do give you percentages. So like if they're like, oh, you can buy these number of loot boxes, or this loot box is worth this much of virtual currency that's worth whatever, or you can pay this amount of money, you'll get this loot box, you'll get these free items, and then this chance to get this guy that you're hunting for. So like, and I've opened those before, it's normally like 26%, so it's always a fourth of a chance to get it. Let's see. Let's see. Newzoo senior market analysis Tom. What does it say?
Tom Wilsman.
Wilsman. I can read. Yay me. Do you want to go ahead and read his quote?
Sure.
Go ahead.
While a ban on microtransactions is unlikely, banning loot boxes, especially in games aimed at children, is definitely in the cards. Wilsman says. If loot boxes were to be taken out of the mobile PC or console gaming ecosystem, for example, the game's business would face no significant issues. Consumers typically buy loot boxes to win a particular item or character, not because they actually enjoy the thrill or experience of purchasing the loot box.
No one cares about that. It's just
it's like they're not the people that go to Ho Chunk Casino just because they love to gamble.
Yeah, no.
Like they want to get.
Once I get that guy,
it's a means to an end, just like money is. It's a means to an end. It's not the journey is not like the exciting part, like the act of like like it's what they get on the other end. There's no inherent joy in just opening doing a loot box.
Seeing the animation of the loot box opening, and then
or at least comparatively, there's no competition between the end result and just the few seconds in between a box opening.
Yeah, like no, you're trying
like opening a Christmas present. You don't know what's going to be in it necessarily, but the ripping of the paper is like a fleeting part of the whole experience. It's what is on the inside of the box that you really care about.
Yeah.
You're not, you don't care about ripping off the paper. It's not, I'm not one of the people who saves wrapping paper because let's be real, that's not going to happen.
Because pretty much it continues on saying that he said that if U.S. banned loot boxes, it wouldn't be a big deal since companies could still make money off of regular microtransactions. So just you buy this thing, that's what you get. Mm-hmm. But it'd be a different story if the government would ban all of that as well, especially if in the worst case scenario, the FTC determines that all microtransactions fall under the bill. So that means like. Even ones for Monster Hunter, which we've talked about, we praise them on, where you can spend $2 to get a Hadouken, you can spend $3 to get an outfit from Mega Man, or whatever.
I don't think you should take away the option to do certain microtransactions, like if you want to buy a set of armor or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I do think that the uncontrolled use of loot boxes. Like the way that Star Wars Battle, when you're basically being deceived. Essentially, it comes down to if you're being deceived into doing something with the promise of a reward that you don't receive, or there's just some weird loophole in the current legislature that allows them to get away with basically, having kids gamble because kids are idiots.
Yep.
And
I was an idiot when I was
and most of them, and no, so was I. And I mean that because it's like, dude, you're still practicing how to talk when you're 12 years old. I don't want to hear you tell me you know anything about how loot boxes work. Not to say that I have had that happen, but I'm just saying, they're not paying for any of this. They no doubt. I'm not, obviously it can't be 100% in every case, but those kids probably didn't buy the game, or if it's free, they're not the ones with the credit card on their account. So they'll just end up doing this stuff without even thinking about it because it's like, oh, it's fun. I want to get a skin with it. They probably, like, I've had, I've with people saying, like, their parents just start looking like, where's all this money going to?
Yeah.
Because, like, their kids don't think about the fact that every time they do something like that, money's being spent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not unlimited.
Exactly.
But it's so easy to do, and it's, like, the only thing you really can purchase. So by default, they're like, well, it's going to make me better somehow.
No,
or I'm going to...
Exactly. That's what I've heard tons of parents. I told them they're lying to you. Straight to your face, they are lying to you.
And even if they weren't lying, why would you want to support... Like, because then it'll never end.
Oh, no.
If you could pay to get better, then that's a never-ending supply of things that you're going to be able to buy because of that.
Yeah.
In either case, it would be you put the kibosh on it immediately.
Oh, I agree.
Which is why I like, and that's another reason. Like anytime, at GameStop, if people come in, be like, I always suggest that you don't put your credit card on the system and always use game cards.
No.
Or predetermined amounts of currency, because then you can. It's like a debit card. You can't go over.
Yep, and you can I'm always a fan of like allowances.
Yeah.
That's
essentially what it is.
But I'm saying the parents give that child the money and they decide what they want to use with it, whether they want to use it on those PSN cards or whatever. They can, or they want to buy food, they want to buy candy, they want to buy a toy, they want to buy a game.
Because when you're in a store with them, you can tell them no matter how many times they ask. But like when it's something you're not immediately looking at, they can just like use your credit card to automatically purchase something that already has all the information on there. That's essentially what it comes down to.
Yep. And then another thing that the article brings up is either that the first one, it's either cautiously optimistic or too dumb to comment on. Wedbush Securities analyst Michael Patcher, meanwhile, thinks that Hawley's bill has zero possibility of becoming an actual law. Quote, Congress simply cannot legislate against pay to win, where a game is competitive and people purchase better weapons, gear, etc. Patcher wrote in his email, that's like legislating against faster cars, nicer handbags, whatever. Too dumb to comment on, end quote. He noted that the one gaming example mentioned in Hawley's press release, which was called out in Microtransactions, which was the Candy Crush, which we talked about. The loot box issue is real, and I understand the desire to stop predatory practices that impact children. In order for a bill addressing that issue to pass, the sponsor would have to demonstrate that children are in fact being taken advantage of. This is still from Patcher. Again, in the dumbest example possible, they call out Candy Crush, whose average player is a 48-year-old housewife, as being a game that targets minors with its $150 bundles. The example is embarrassing, and it, which is his statement, Hawley's statement, shows how little the senator and his staff understand the issue. I won't speculate on what passage means, since there is a zero possibility of the bill passing. Our Congress can't even agree on a budget, for God's sake. So why do you think they would agree on this? So
I mean, that's a solid point.
That is a solid.
But he he said, you need It's like Carl Sagan says, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you're going to need to have. But it's like, how do you test something like that even?
I don't know.
Like outside of going to someone's house where, it's like you would almost have to have parents like saying that it's happening. Like, because there's not really any like empirical way I can think of off top to test if kids are being taken advantage of, because it's not their resources, money, or credit cards that are being used.
Yeah. and it's harder. Like when back in the '90s, in the '90s with the ESRB being created, that was easier to do because when video games were first made, there was no rating system to them. So
until Mortal Kombat
came out, and then Mortal Kombat, it was it was gruesome, which nowadays is like nothing. But anyway,
if you've seen MK11, you know we've come a long way.
Oh yeah, but that's why the ESRB was created, and it's like, oh, we'll make it like movies. Movies have a rating system.
Right.
We'll go ahead and do it like that. That's why the ESRB was made. It's not even government. It's made within the video game industry. But the problem is that like the video game industry, especially when it comes to money, they're not going to self-regulate themselves. Like we've seen this countless times.
If they can get away with not doing it, of course, it's any business. Like if you can make more money and not have to, and you're not, and you don't get punished for not regulating yourself, why would you?
Exactly. That's why, that's why, for instance, when Call of Duty Black Ops 4 came out, no microtransactions. They said no microtransactions. We're not doing microtransactions. It comes out, the reviews come out, it's getting good reviews, 8s, 9s, whatever, 7, 8, 9s, all pretty much like good game. But then about a few months later, after the reviews are out, after the game has been played by tons of people, here comes the microtransactions, here come the COD points, which, you get the little recticle and, the skins and the outfits and stuff like that. So that's something that's ridiculous because the game comes out without it. They're
basically treating everyone like idiots. Like, oh, they're not going to realize that, they'll forget about the fact that, oh, we said this. And even if people do remember, it's not going to matter because what are they going to do?
The only people who remember are people like us who follow this kind of thing.
Right. Well, and that's a growing amount of people. But even so, like, it's basically just, like, they're just trying to get away with anything they can until they're called on it.
Mm-hmm.
They're just going to do it, and if no one says anything, well, hooray for us. We're going to make more money. If they do, we'll take it out.
And that's why there are people like us, so that way, people who don't follow the video game industry, who
you don't want to be taken advantage of without realizing it because you don't have a frame of reference or you just don't have enough time or initiative to look into those kinds of things because I wouldn't expect everyone to want to.
The reason why I follow...
Again, a lot of the game, but for me, it's like a lot of the games I play don't have them anyway, or if they do, it doesn't affect me because I don't really play online, and I'm never in a situation where it bothers me or if it stopped my ability to play the game or something, like that's an extreme example, but anything approaching that's when I would start to get activist about it.
I agree. That's how, like, for me, that's like.
But I honestly don't care enough about cosmetics. As an example, with like Mortal Kombat 11 has a bunch of microtransactions and stuff you can do in it, but not doing it only affects the aesthetics more than anything else. And I don't care. I like getting cool shit to put on my character and make them look unique. But again, not being like for someone who barely plays online with a game like that, or even when it's like I don't care enough about how like that functions within the game's parameters.
Yeah.
And it doesn't affect how I'm able to play the game and how often I can play it. Then I don't care. It's a non-issue for me.
Yeah, and like for me, it's.
And I don't play online shooters, which is really the biggest offender when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, and but mind you, I like. That's why people follow us. And there are people, YouTubers that I follow because
not enough. We need your help.
That's why I like, comment, and subscribe. But anyway, but there are YouTubers that I follow because I like who they are.
Yeah,
who they are as a person.
Honestly, that's all it comes down to.
Exactly.
Because there are so many people doing what we do, or like this is like to. Because I watch it actually this comes from like something I watch. Like one of my favorite channels is Wisecrack.
I love Wisecrack.
Because I'm a big philosophy buff, and like a lot of times they'll mention, depending on their subject matter, of this is the age of the prosumer.
Yeah.
There used to be the producer and the consumer, but now it's one and the same. We're consumers who also produce content.
Yeah.
And especially with the internet being the way it is, YouTube being the way, it doesn't really matter the platform. There's a million flavors of video game news outlet. Any person who can afford the equipment to do it and has an internet connection can do what we do.
Exactly.
And in our case, for the people who we watch, or in your case for watching us over someone else, It's not what they're talking about, because all this news is immediately and readily available. Like we're reading other people's articles.
Yeah, and that's why we source them.
Right.
We source where we're getting our information from.
You watch who you watch because of the personality and the atmosphere, or the production value, or like the editing. Like it's the content. It's the way the content is created, not what the content necessarily is.
Yeah. Yeah, like for instance, like if you haven't noticed, we're a podcast channel. We do long form videos. We love doing that. We love having conversations like this.
Yeah, and it's like we could do short form, and it's not to say that we couldn't do that well as well, but it's like it's easier. I mean, in this instance, to just go on a tangent and just talk about it without having to because if I were to condense stuff, I'd have to script it.
Yeah, and
I could, but I don't feel like I have to. So why would I?
And that's why
that's extra work.
And really coming back to this is just like, we are here to inform you guys about what's going on. That's why we wanted to talk about this.
Like people like Game Ranks who do before you buy.
Yeah,
like it's like. We're going to go out and do this and play and get, so that before you do like put your money down or invest into something.
Or if you've played a
game, you'll go in with an informed decision.
Or if you like these games, that's what, like if you
or
like
if you're on
games,
the fence about a game and you don't know for sure and you just want a second opinion, that's another thing.
And that's why we have our reviews. That's why our reviews are part of
Try to cover every base, or at least the ones that matter the most.
Exactly. But like, he's saying that, too dumb to comment,
I feel it's a little harsh, but then again, it's also, you got to think about it. Like, I also would agree in a sense, like, because all the points he brought up are valid, because he acknowledged that yes, the unchecked use of this kind of thing, like the loot boxes, taking advantage of them, but it's also, it's like I can go back and forth on who's like on like the more right side, because it's like, yeah, you can say, oh, you need a bunch of evidence, but it's like, okay. But how do you gather evidence?
How do you get
and if you don't, it could still be an issue if it's left unchecked, even if there's no like off the top empirical way to verify that all of these kids are being taken advantage of. So it's like something has to be done to be able to know how that's being taken care of.
Yeah.
But you can't just say it's too dumb because you don't have any evidence. Be like, well, unless you can provide a way to immediately start gathering this data.
Well, he's saying that he's too dumb. That, like, he says Congress simply cannot legislate pay to win. That's why he says.
Oh, he's talking about himself?
Patcher wrote in his email. That's like he says Congress simply cannot legislate against pay to win, where a game is competitive and people purchase better weapons, gear, etc. He wrote this in his email. Michael Patcher. That's like legislating against faster cars, nicer handbags, whatever. Too dumb to comment on.
Oh, he's speaking about himself?
I believe so.
Because I guess I could make sense in both contexts, but I feel like he's not talking about himself, or he would have given more clarification.
Let me see.
Like maybe, like I think it's when he says too dumb to comment on, he's either saying I'm not informed enough on legislature to comment on that, but then again, why would they even include what he's talking about?
Yeah.
Like, he knows what he's talking about if they have him in this article, I would hope. So I think he's saying that the entire idea is too dumb to comment on, because you would never legislate against faster cars, nicer
You're right. No, it's the second one that it's dumb to bring this up, because then he goes, again, in the dumbest example possible, they call out Candy Crush, who average player is...
That's probably one of the biggest examples that has, like, history to it, because that's, brought up a while back. But again, he's right, like, kids aren't playing Candy Crush, at least, and if they are, nowhere near the degree they are with a game like Fortnite. And when it comes to a mobile phone, they would need to get their parents' credit card on there, and it wouldn't be as easy for them to do like it is for a gaming console, where it's like I need your credit card, or to do certain things.
In order to play online, you need to buy PlayStation Plus.
Right.
So let's put our credit.
But with the credit card on there, it immediately allows you to instantly just purchase as many things as you want.
Auto renewal for Plus, so that way it's already there.
But there are other avenues, which is predetermined currency cards, or PlayStation Plus membership cards.
Yeah. Yeah,
which come in predetermined amounts that automatically cut off.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't agree with him, because he's saying
I agree that in some this is the only reason I somewhat agree with his attitude going against the senator, is because the senator bringing this up, if he were to get it passed or like anything, he's going to get so much fucking money and support and resources for getting such a big deal law passed.
But from who? You know that
from the people that want to see him succeed, or at the very least, if he got that through legislature, that's a new law. There's a lot. I guarantee you. I don't know exactly, but I guarantee you, dude. Whoever he works for, there's no way. Like I'm not saying that he isn't doing this from the bottom of his heart, though I doubt that's completely the only reason. As a senator, that you're doing something like that.
I don't know.
It's possible. All I'm saying is there is no way you could convince me that there is not some money to be made on the senator's end by trying to get this passed. It gets attention. Dude, time is money, and there's no way there's not money being exchanged in some form for all the attention, if not the conceptual passing of such a bill on his end.
I mean, look, I'm pretty sure that the video game lobbyists are going to be showing up and going like, no, this is fine. There's no.
I agree that there should be legislation to try to, something. There should be some sort of safeguard for this kind of thing. But I also feel that no one would be doing this if they didn't make $1. There's no way the guy in the article didn't get paid for his time.
I don't know.
I'm not, and again, I could be wrong, and there are cases where people would just do it out of the goodness of their heart, but I highly doubt it.
I don't know. I mean, the way I look at it is that, I'm glad.
All I'm saying is you have to take everyone's opinion with a grain of salt.
Well, I think it's more of, it could be money, but I think it's more of like the outrage of Battlefront 2 just became, the bubble burst.
Again, comes down to money, though.
I know.
Because that's the root of the problem is either the spending of it without knowing the implications,
people bought that game excited for Star Wars playing this game because you could play as the Jedi, you could play as the clones, you could play as the rebels, you could play as the Empire. And now, in order to really do literally anything, you need to go ahead and spend money in order to do anything. People were mad about that. You couldn't return that game. Fallout 76, same thing. People bought the game and got upset, and there were loot boxes in there. It's all cosmetic still, but now you can get paid, quote pay to win stuff in that game too. So there's problems with it. It's bad. It's not good. Look, I'm behind this bill.
I'm behind the bill, but it needs more scrutiny.
Okay,
it needs to be looked at more. I'm not going to just say the first. That's basically saying first draft of this book or idea done. No revisions necessary. I think that the Patcher or Pactor. He brings up a good point in that, I at least think that it's good, it shouldn't go unchallenged. I definitely think that legislation for loot boxes, paying to win, definitely should be put into place, rigidly in the legislature. So it's you can't argue with this. I don't care how big of a game company you are. If you do this, you go to jail or whatever it may be, or you're going to pay out the ass to not go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
So but I also think that this really needs to be looked at closely. There does need to be evidence that this is a huge enough problem for it to, to be passed. Yeah. And I'm not saying that loot boxes. In all instances, pay to win, no way.
No way.
Should be illegal in every aspect. There is no way paying to win is ever going to be a fair and just thing.
In fun.
Ever.
In fun.
No, yeah.
That's why, again,
I would never play a game competitively that's pay to win. Ever.
Oh, I agree. I completely agree. That's why I like Battlefront 2. I'm just no. I mean, even for me, I went on.
Even if the game's fun, I'll play it. If there's an alternative way to play it without having to get that competitive edge through actual real life money in order to even have a ghost of a chance.
Yeah.
That never will ever will I ever agree with it. And I think it should completely be banned and outlawed in every facet that you can.
Yeah, and I've went on tirades.
But I don't think that loot boxes inherently, because loot boxes is just another form of microtransaction. Sometimes you don't have to pay for it, but it's still like a transaction in some form.
I think it's how you go about
it. Exactly.
You need to be
the devil's in the details in all of this. That's what I'm saying. That guy said, you need this needs to be looked at. This is good because it's being brought up and it's getting a lot of attention, but it needs to be scrutinized, and specifics are what need to come out of this.
Yeah.
This specifically is what is illegal about this thing.
Yeah.
And that is what we need to look at, not, this entire thing, we should get rid of it because in some instances, having no checks or balances will lead to children gambling essentially their parents' money away or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But absolutely pay to, because I think there's not too much else to say.
No.
But in summation, pay to win, trash, it should be illegal in every form.
I agree.
Because there's really, it's by definition a manipulative process.
Oh, yeah.
By definition. So it shouldn't be allowed. And loot boxes, I have no problem with loot boxes. It's cool getting new gear. There's nothing wrong with that. Especially if you can earn it through in-game currency and grinding, that's fine. Mm-hmm. Totally understandable. In fact, it adds more fun to the game because there's more of a reward to getting it. Even if they're given to you just every time you beat a match, or if you do better. If you let's say as an example, real quick, and this isn't how it works, but. You get, if you're in a fighting game and you do well against someone, you get more, currency, whatever, than they do. Because you did better than them skillfully, completely, based off of your skill. It's how you input button combos in.
Yeah.
That's fine. Mm-hmm. But if the other person basically has a bigger wallet than you and can pay to progress faster than you without having to actually have any skill in the game, that is what needs to be outlawed.
Oh yeah, I agree.
That literally is paying to win. That's the thing. It's loot boxes. It would all come down to paying to win being illegal. The loot boxes themselves aren't the problem. It's the loot boxes are a means to basically mask the pay to win in the background because it's just it's so gradual or it's
instead of
randomized
instead of spending $50 to $100 to be all right, max out my guy,
done.
You
I didn't have to grind. The people who don't want to pay to have to do that,
but in order for you to max out, you now have to spend $200 because it's loot boxes, so it's all randomized.
Right.
So now you spend double that or
so
more.
Essentially just making pay to win illegal, and we fix every problem.
There you go. That I agree with you there.
Because that's the only reason people would have that's what I'm saying. That's why it would become gambling, whatnot, because it's basically it's you're spending money without a guarantee of obviously you can have randomization, sure, but if you're paying real money, there's a reason you have to be an adult to gamble because you choose to throw your money away. Mm-hmm. But in this case, it's unless you're saying you're buying this item, you are guaranteed this thing. It will give you these stats. Fine, you can do that. But if that gives you an advantage over other human players, immediately I ban it, outlaw, no way.
I agree. That's why I like Injustice.
And that's pretty much my stance on it. It's just if it boils down to your ability to win is determined by paying to get something and not something that couldn't be overcome by somebody else's skill.
Yeah.
You could because if you could buy something, but someone could still kick your ass, based off of their skill alone. With let's say they have two identical characters, and they buy one item that gives them some sort of stat boost, but you could still easily be defeated by someone whose skill is greater than yours. Fine, but I don't see how that could possibly happen because by the nature of increasing something by paying for it, not only is it pay to win,
it's still not fair because then the guy
who's putting in the hours of time, not money.
Yes, the guy who skillfully beat that dude who pretty much put him on even point with the skillful guy. That's still cheating because that's still cheap because then the guy who was skillful.
Well, it might as well be cheating.
I know.
That's what paying to win is essentially. I'm cheating within the rules because that's how they're determining it. Yeah. But that still should be illegal because it's just unfair. It comes down to being unjust that I should have to spend money to catch up with someone who's in a better financial standing but doesn't want to put the time into the game.
Yeah, no.
Because time is money.
Yeah.
And if I'm putting time into a game, that's more valuable than any money amount. I'm putting hours of my life into something I want to get better at, not just throwing money at it so that I don't have to do that.
No, I agree. Last, just to end, do you think this bill will get passed?
I don't think in its current form it will get passed. I'm not a lawyer or a legislator. I think that some aspect of it should get passed.
But will it, though? I'm saying
Probably not. It's probably going to have to be brought up again.
Okay.
But with all this, stuff going on with people walking out on companies, things like that, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's just like
the
even though it's not directly related really at all, but the whole gaming, like, as an industry and as a business, they've never really been thrown out like into the middle of the road like they are now.
Yeah.
They're like directly being like there's laws, like people are trying to get stuff passed now.
Yeah.
This is
like
big. This is a bigger deal than it ever really has been.
Yeah, like the government.
So I definitely think that if not passed, it's going to be if it or some aspect of it isn't passed after due process, I think it's going to be brought up immediately again as soon as someone wants to do it.
So, or whenever EA, Activision, whoever messes up again.
Yeah.
I personally, I'm hopeful.
I'm hopeful that, like I said, but the thing is, I don't know enough about it to say, oh yes, and I'm sure that there are aspects of it.
Yeah.
That should be revised. I don't know. I don't think that anyone is infallible.
Candy Crush is a bad example, but if you use Fortnite, because you have to choose a game that's targeting children. What is the demographic of the game? What game or games that are targeting children? Fortnite is the biggest game in the world today. That is a game that should be used as the example for the bill. If you use Fortnite, you can, but then you kind of lose that. But anyway, we could go on forever on this.
Yeah.
But to close with me, I'm hopeful that this bill gets passed. I want this to get passed because I agree. But in this current, I do agree. In its current wording, I don't know because I don't know, and I
think it's too ambiguous.
It's too ambiguous, and I agree with the cautiously optimistic. The guy who said
he's just
first, but it could hit everything.
Yeah, and then that's not okay. Because there's nothing wrong with paying to get a new outfit if you want to do that. Mm-hmm. But, because that's not paying to win. Because it doesn't affect your game performance outside of your actual gaming ability. Mm-hmm. What's in front of the screen, not behind it.
That's why, I'm always a fan of, I don't mind about microtransactions, but I want them to be, you get
it's an
this
option.
thing.
I want it to be optional.
Optional, and it's that you get this thing.
Yeah.
You pay $5 for
but then
this
again,
thing.
anything randomized you should be just given, or you can earn through gameplay.
Or you're just you're being like those loot boxes.
Yeah, if you pay for it, they're gonna literally load a bunch. You're gonna get a bunch of opportunities.
Yeah,
to
or
get
when
something.
you play the game, that's why I love Injustice, because those loot boxes are being thrown at you left and right. So yeah, no, I completely agree. But yeah, I know this was a big episode. We tried to keep it within about an hour and a half. We kind of went a little over, but that's okay. We had kind of two big topics that I think needed that time.
Yeah.
And everything. But guys, I'm guessing that's
that's it.
Yeah,
for me.
no, I
pay to win should be illegal. Loot boxes not necessarily.
Nope, yep. Especially pay to win. Loot boxes.
Anything because like I said, it'll all boil down to pay to win.
Exactly.
And so as long as that's illegal, then it should fix everything else through a chain reaction.
Yeah. But guys, thank you so much. We always appreciate it. Please go ahead and let us know what you guys think about this bill, the Protecting Children from Abusive Games Act.
I definitely think they need to work on the name.
The PCAG Act.
Yeah. So it'd be you can't make an acronym from it.
No, you can't.
It's not marketable.
No. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Please go ahead and let us know what you guys think. If you agree with us, if you have any differences, if you guys think this bill will pass, if not, if you like microtransactions, if you don't, if you like Fortnite, if you hate Fortnite, whatever. We always appreciate you talking to us and that kind of thing. But guys, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and press the bell icon. That way, whenever we put up a video, we put up a video on youtube.com/Brotherhood of Geeks. You can also follow us on Facebook, which is facebook.com/The Brotherhood of Geeks. And then you can also follow us on Twitter at Dualshock'd BOG. That's the name of this PlayStation podcast, Dualshock'd BOG. And then you can also watch us live when we stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/Brotherhood of Geeks. Woo! Good. Good episode. Good
Yeah.
long. Yeah.
It's like 75 degrees in here, bro.
I'm aware, dude.
Roasting right now.
Dude, look at me. I'm a big fat guy. I'm dying in here. Don't worry. You're wearing a sweater. I don't even know why you would.
Yeah, because it was...
I forgot you're skinny.
Yeah. Exactly.
There you go. All right, then. Well, I'm Brett J. Rasmussen.
I'm Guru Blaz.
And as always, live to play.
Touch each other.
No. Play together. We'll see you guys next time.